Hello guys, today we're gonna go over 1.4. We're only gonna go over examples 1 and 2. That's all you need to know. And even though the names might be different, we already saw this last year. You'll see it's pretty simple. Now, example 1, all it asks us is to determine from which to which intervals a function is increasing or decreasing. Pretty simple. Let's assume that this is 1, 2, 3. And let's assume that this value here is 5. Again, just for the sake of this example. Now remember, we read the graphs from left to right. We begin at negative infinity and we end at positive infinity. We have to read the graph. If from left to right it has a negative slope, it's decreasing. If it has a positive slope, it would be increasing. Now remember, these aren't linear functions. So the way you have to think about this is the average rate of change. Pretty much, if it's pointing upward, it's increasing. If it's pointing downwards, it's decreasing. So let's say if I ask you, determine from which to which intervals these are decreasing, you would say, for example, or let's begin with increasing. It increases from negative infinity all the way up to 1. So I do not include negative infinity, and I'm increasing all the way up to 1, including 1, and also from 5, including 5, to positive infinity. I am increasing from negative infinity to x equals 1. Remember, you don't care about the y value. You just care that's increasing. These would be increasing in the exact same interval. Doesn't matter by how much it's increasing. Do not focus on the y value. Some students focus on the y value. Do not focus on the y value. It's the x intervals for which a function is increasing or decreasing. So I am increasing from negative infinity to 1 and from 5 to positive infinity because I begin increasing. And I am decreasing from 1. Again, it's actually better to use parentheses. Don't include these values. That's my recommendation. From 1 to 5, it's decreasing, and that's pretty much it. So increasing from negative infinity to positive to negative 1. Sorry, I forgot these negatives. Decreasing from negative 1 to 5. Increasing from 5 to positive infinity. Let's look at another quick example. The other example would be maybe an inverted quadratic that goes through the origin. Again, it would be increasing from negative infinity to x equals 0, and it would be decreasing from 0 to positive infinity. From 0 to positive infinity. Again, remember, don't focus on the y values. We just care about the x values, at which we see increasing or decreasing behavior. Now, note, for example 2, the book mentions extrema and critical points. Same thing as a relative maximum, absolute maximum, relative minimum, absolute minimum. The only real new definition is critical point. A critical point is pretty much a place where the behavior goes from increasing to decreasing. But we'll get, that's not really necessary for now. Let's focus on the difference between a relative and an absolute maximum and or minimum. Let's take this equation, for example. This is a great example. Now remember, think of a minimum like a pool. So this would be a minimum. Think of a maximum like a roof. This could be a maximum. So this would be a relative maximum because my function exists above this point. This would be a relative minimum because my function exists below this point. Even though it's, it can't be there, but to the sides, it exists below that point. So that would be a relative minimum. This would be an absolute maximum because nowhere on the graph does my function exist at that level. Again, let's go over 2 more examples, and that's pretty much it. We have a normal quadratic. We have an absolute minimum right there at the vertex because my graph doesn't exist anywhere else below that particular point. So that would be an absolute minimum. Now let's let's describe this quadratic. Estaba desinflando ahí. In this case, since my graph exists infinitely, since it exists infinitely, it expands infinitely downward and it extends infinitely upward, this would be a relative maximum and this would be a relative minimum. There are no absolutes in this particular case. That's it for today. And for the Star Wars fans, only Sith think in absolutes. Take care. I will see you all tomorrow.